Hello and welcome to the PodStation by Trophies on PSN. This is Kryptonite Dragon. Today I'll be joined by Dante Zero and GTA Man.
Heyo,
Hello.
Kiflon, brother.
You guys missed
I
it
have
before the
no
show.
idea what you just said.
Kiflon. It's the
Yeah.
new religions.
Alright,
Everyone is the same except for red-haired people.
now I know what you just said, yeah. Sorry, I'm a bit slow on the uptake with that one.
Dropping frames.
Anyway. You were saying?
We're dropping frames. We've got some kind of error going. Hopefully our sound
Oh,
quality will be okay. If you
okay.
guys missed it before the show, we were driving Dante crazy with soundboards. He was mad nobody invited him to play.
No, I couldn't be bothered to get my Duke Nukem one out, but never mind.
Okay, let's start with the site roundup. So lots going on behind the scenes. We are working on a complete new database structure, and so you may see some things changing on the front end in terms of when you hover over buttons, the names of various game forums, game tiles, things like that. We've got some really great additions planned, and you're going to start seeing quite a lot added to the front end of the site, namely where the game information is. So just keep tuned in for that. And in the meantime, bear with us about any bugs that may occur. We recently had some issues with some of the names of the trophy images on the forums, and we're going through and cleaning that up. Thank you. Shout out to the guide team for their hard work with that, because it was quite a task. We had to check basically every image on the forum that related to a trophy, and we're going to revamp that process and make it smoother, and hopefully it'll be very helpful when we're all done. So, on to the PSN pick of the week. Dante.
Yeah, we've got a cracker this week. We've seen it bounded about for a bit, but to be honest with you, I picked this up when it came out on Wednesday. It came out on Wednesday. I picked it up on Friday and absolutely fell in love with it within about 5 minutes of playing it. You may have heard of it, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. My God.
Are there dragons in that one?
Yes.
Can you
Strangely
steal
enough,
cars?
yes. No, you can't. Actually, yeah, you can steal cars. It is Far Cry, so yes, you can.
Can you beat up hookers with a baseball bat?
No.
Stupid game.
Anyway, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. It's based on the Far Cry 3 engine, which obviously, as you know, for most people was a great game and for many Game of the Year. But this sort of takes it to a whole new level with Far Cry. On paper, the game should be terrible, but it's not. It just works fantastically well. Basically, what they've done is they've taken the Far Cry 3 game and sent it back into the 80s with every possible cliche you could think of. There's references from Terminator, pretty much every action hero movie that you ever saw in the 80s. It makes the fun out. It takes a mick out of like dodgy women characters in it and VHS, and it even has like the Tron-esque music to it. It's it's a very bizarre game, especially for a first-person shooter. There's so many things in it. You just sort of, when you play through it, you kind of see things and you think that shouldn't work, but it just does. And it's really funny as well, which genuinely helps. Ubisoft didn't really have to make this game. The fact that they have done so successfully makes it an absolute, you know, instant purchase for anybody that's a fan of Far Cry 3 easily. And if you still haven't picked up Far Cry 3, the great thing is you can pick this up as a standalone game on its own, so you don't actually need the Far Cry 3 game to play this.
Cool.
So, yeah, do check it out, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. I can't say much more than on it without sort of... It's one of those games where you got to just say to people, look, just go play it, because you will have such a great laugh with it that you just you'll realise after playing it for a couple of hours, you'll be like, what did I just do? Do you know what I mean? You lose complete track of time. But yeah, definitely check it out. It's a PS3 PSN game. It costs about 10 quid, which I think for you guys about $15 on the American store. So yeah, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Just beware if you are very sensitive to neon and flashing lights. Do take breaks with it, because I found that as well. It's like I can live with the colour scheme, but just there was way too much neon in it for me that I'd had to sort of put it down after a couple of hours play. It's not something I'd recommend playing 10 hours straight through. But yeah, do go check it out. You'll have a lot of fun with it.
Okay. Thank you, thank you.
Sure.
Now on to the what you've been playing segment.
So what have you been playing?
I've been playing the new sim called Create Your Own Website. I've been very active on that, and yeah, it's been keeping me busy. So nothing to report really this last week.
Did you not manage to sneak any time in with Black Ops 2?
No, I haven't managed to play anything over the last week.
Aww.
Damn,
Yeah.
that sucks. What you been playing, GTA man? Anything good?
Well, here comes the surprise. I've been doing the 100% for GTA 4 again, and I'm going for the platinum another time.
Again?
Been playing some Assassin's Creed Revelations, try to get the last missions to 100% sync, and the occasional Black Ops 2 multiplayer match, and then after one match I'm like, why do I even play this? And then I just go back and to GTA. So, but I'm getting paid for it, so who cares? I'm getting paid for it.
How many times will this make for your platinums?
For my platinum, it will be the fifth time. No, the fourth time. 100% fifth time. The story will be the 12th time, and I'm going for 100% in trophies as well, which I started with today, and the Lost and Damned is already done. So, and that will be the second time. So I think it's actually going to be fun to redoing those missions again, since I've pretty much practiced a lot in multiplayer of the Battle of Gay Tony, but we'll see how it works out.
Cool.
And people actually didn't believe when I told them that I completed it in 24 hours and 20 minutes. They were like, "Nah, that ain't true." Okay, fuck it. I'll make a picture. And I didn't mean to say drop the F-bomb. Sorry.
Yes, do watch that. I don't even know where to start with what I've been playing this week. I've just had so much that I've wanted to play and ended up playing. Obviously I've played Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which I had to put down after a little while. You're going to laugh at this one. Squill encouraged me to pick up Farming Simulator for the PS Vita.
He's trying to plat that.
Yeah, so am I now.
Wait, there's actually a platinum for the Farming Simulator?
Yeah.
It's gotta be that easy, because there's like 3 things to do in the entire game. Drive a truck around. Well, no, you cannot even ride over people, so what's the point?
It's not a GTA clone though, but actually,
It got
do you know
cars in
what?
it, so it's a clone.
We laugh at the concept of playing something like Farming Simulator, but it's actually very therapeutic, which is strange. I never thought I'd hear myself say that about an actual farming game, which is bizarre. But yeah, I've been playing some of that on my Vita. What else did I pick up? Zombie Tycoon 2, Brainy Officer's Revenge or something like that. I wasn't too keen on that, to be honest with you, but I'm going to keep ploughing through and see how that goes. The other interesting one that I've been playing this week, obviously, is Telltale's Poker Nights 2. I don't know if you remember seeing that, you guys.
Yeah,
I've posted some trailers on my website, and it looked pretty funny with Claptrap and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's just basically just single player stuff. You get like a bunch of unlocks and stuff for Borderlands 2, and you get some dynamic themes and stuff as you play, rounds and tournaments that pay get better. Yeah, for the most part, it does repeat the dialogue a little bit sometimes, which is the only downside, and it does like to hang as well. And I think that's probably because it tries to think about the dialogue that it's going to present you and keep it different. So you quite often find that you'll get a sentence from one of the characters, and then the game will just hang. Um, also, what was it? The other thing that I don't like about only other thing I don't like about it is it seems to hang because of the autosave. So it's like constantly trying to save for you, and that causes the game to hang a lot. So I'm
Is
still
it a
a bit
Bethesda game?
unsure. Yeah, I was going to say, you'd think it is, wouldn't you?
Surgeon Simulator by Bethesda.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping Telltale will patch it though, because in all fairness, Telltale are pretty good. I mean, look how quickly they patched The Walking Dead and stuff when they had issues with that, and I didn't even get those issues with The Walking Dead, but yeah, they did get patches out for those pretty quick. So I'm hoping they'll patch this pretty quick. And the only other thing I've been playing this week is some more of Defiance. I just can't seem to put that game down at the moment.
Cool, cool. Cool, cool.
Crazy addictive MMO. It's nuts.
Alrighty. Well, Squill's racing to the platinum. I guess he was telling me that he's trying to be the first. So good
Yeah,
luck to him. Best
trying to
wishes.
beat me on it.
I
Yeah.
think it won't be
Sounds
hard
like-
as nobody plays the game.
It seems like Dante's racing him though, so they've got competition between each other at least.
Yeah.
But good luck to both of you, I guess. Whoever gets
Yeah. Thanks, we'll need it. I think Pat is doing it as well. He's playing it.
there.
Mm.
Okay.
So we'll definitely be in the top 10 people to platinum it first.
Sweet.
That'd be sweet, yeah.
I don't know. Squill's a farmer, so he might have the edge up on you.
Yeah, well, see, this is what I said the other day when it came out, because I was under the assumption that it was coming out for PS3 and that it wasn't going to be out for another couple of months. And then when it released on the store on Wednesday, we were like, on PSV, we were like, what? What's this all about? And it just made me laugh, because it kind of reminded me of the old sayings on Pimp My Ride and stuff, It's like, now you can farm while you farm. So, and then I immediately thought of Skrilla. I was thinking, I imagine he's probably driving his tractor somewhere, and he's probably driving his tractor on a Vita as well. It's got an unfair advantage over me.
Alrighty, let's move on to some GTA 5 news.
Yeah.
Heard something about that game coming out at some point.
Yeah, I think it was last year or something, or spring. Yeah, it was in spring,
Yeah.
but then it got delayed. No, I'll stop saying nonsense. What do you want to know first? Because there have been a lot of previews out, 3 trailers, and a boatload of screens. So where do we start?
We've deliberately kept away from it in terms of the new stuff. And I've deliberately kept away from it because I wanted to get you on to come on and talk about it. So, by all means, run me through, because I'm completely clueless. I still have not seen any of the 3 trailers yet.
I've seen the trailers.
So, treat me like an idiot here and tell me exactly everything that's gone on, because I know Rockstar have been quite actively busy this last week. So,
Alright, let's start with a fun fact then. Franklin alone, Franklin the African American, Franklin alone has more textures than the entire pedestrian population of GTA San Andreas.
Okay.
It should say something.
Yeah.
Rockstar says there will be 5 times as much pedestrians in GTA 5 as there will be in Grand Theft Auto 4. I mean, imagine if there are 4 times, no, 5 times more pedestrians, how big will the world even be? Because there were a lot of pedestrians in GTA 4. Even if you turn it on low in multiplayer.
Yeah, but the question is though, are the pedestrians gonna like, are they gonna look different? Because I found that with GTA 4 that it was quite, when you sort of looked into it a bit more, you could see that a lot of the pedestrian designs all looked very similar. So like you'd go down one street and it'd be the same as going down another field street. So
Yeah, but I think the difference between the two games is that in GTA 5 you got multiple areas. You got the mountains, you got the the countryside, you got the city, you got the gang side of Los Santos, like in San Andreas. In San Andreas, you had a lot of different pedestrians because you had people going up in the mountains, you had farmers, you had gang members, you had like the really rich guys, and then you had the normal people, of course, all the taxi drivers and that stuff.
mm,
So personally, I think there will be a lot more. But then again, I mean, if you're going to build uh, a city that is 3.5 times the size of Red Dead Redemption in terms of playable area above ground, and then 5 times if you count it with the underwater area.
mm,
I mean, it's gonna be hard to get like 1,000 different pedestrians because
yeah,
you
but
got you gotta think that underwater there will be also people, and you can hunt for treasure. You can hunt. I mean, like in Far Cry 3, if you went for a swim in the sea, you were going to be attacked by sharks. That's the same in GTA 5. There will be underwater jellyfish and sharks and like a whole ground to explore.
yeah,
And you
Hmm.
got
So we'd be hijacking submarines.
probably, yeah.
that would be pretty cool.
Open the screen door and pull the driver out. Slide on in there.
Yeah. I mean, you can even like go to the mountains and check someone's mountain bike and then drive circles and then just drive away and stunt. You got rivers, lakes, military bases, farmland, desert. I mean, the list goes on and on. I mean, I think it's San Andreas 10.1.
Cool.
I was going to just say it sounds to me like San Andreas 2.0, but
Well, I
but yeah,
think we can say San Andreas on steroids.
yeah,
You
Hmm.
remember when GTA 4 was too realistic for people?
yeah,
Well, that's completely changed. Have you guys played Max Payne 3?
yeah.
No, haven't.
Yeah. The shooting is going to be like Max Payne 3. You can run and gun. You got free aim, soft lock, and hard lock. Soft lock is like just, well, basically like in Max Payne 3. You can run to cover and all that good stuff. You got the weapon wheel, and there are more weapons and vehicles than ever. Every character got his own special ability. Franklin has the ability called Adrenaline Junkie. That way the time will slow down, and you can while you're driving, and then you can just take the corners better or whatever. Trevor has something called Frenzy Mode. He does double damage, takes half damage, and has a unique melee attack, like you can see in the trailer, which Dante hasn't seen because he's Dante. Then Michael has his own version of bullet time. So basically, that means that Franklin is the driver guy. Trevor is the crazy madman who is basically the typical GTA player, and then there's Michael, who is the best shooting guy.
All
Okay.
right, that's an interesting dynamic then. If all three characters have different unique abilities,
hmm But every
because
character has like his standard skill categories. You got stamina, shooting, strength, stealth, flying, driving, mechanic, and lung capacity. But for example, Trevor has actual access to planes and all that in the beginning of the game. So he has the military background and he's the go-to guy for flying. But that does not mean that Franklin and Michael are not able to fly. They can fly, but Trevor will be better in flying than the other two. So if you're flying with Trevor, it will go much easier than you're flying with Franklin or Michael. Same goes for like the other guys with their abilities.
So there's an element of strategy in terms
Yeah,
of like if a certain mission requires a certain skill set, obviously you have to pick which one you do the
yeah.
mission as very carefully.
Well,
That's
we don't know about the trophy elements and stuff yet. Are we going to be able to select a person and play through each of those elements only one time to beat the game, or are we going to have to play
Well,
all three characters' storylines all the way through?
no, the way the missions work is you got a couple of big heists in the game, but before you go to do that, you go do smaller heists and really prepare for the missions that is the big heist. You know, I don't know, you guys play GTA San Andreas, or can you still remember bits and pieces of it?
Yeah.
yeah, I can.
Do you
Yeah,
remember when you are going to rob the casino, the Caligula's casino,
yeah,
the rival of the Four Dragons? Yeah. Basically, that's the same thing as the whole GTA 5 campaign. Of course, it will be more in depth and stuff, but it's basically the same thing. You go to into a small room. You got this plan all worked out. You need a vehicle, a getaway vehicle. You need a crew because you're going to be hiring crew members. You can choose if you want to cheap out and get a less skilled person for hacking and stuff like Dante, or you can pick KD, who is a master guy in all kinds of hacking and stuff and live streaming and that stuff, then you will get everyone will get a bigger cut if they are better at it, and you will have like a bigger crew and all that stuff. But if you would uh, have someone who is less skilled, you will get more money, but the chance that they will fail is higher. So you need to have the strategy of what are you going to do. Are you going to cheap out and risk your life of failing, or are you going to spend a little bit of more money and have a more chance of succeeding the mission?
No, you would know about like what elements you need before you start the mission, so you could
Yeah,
potentially
obviously.
have some where you just say, "I don't need a crew, and I'll go do this."
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Cool, cool, awesome.
do you
But
think that
it's a
detracts
whole.
from the ethos of GTA a little bit though? In terms of if there's a lot of planning to, I'm not saying that's a bad thing,
I think it ties it
but
more into like there's more than just you as the bad guy,
yeah,
and you
I
know,
think it gives a whole different because if you think about it, you're basically were doing that in every GTA in a mission, but you were preparing for it. For example, in GTA 4, the diamond deal. What you're doing on your own now, were doing on your own, you're doing that now with like a crew.
yeah,
When, for example, you had Ray who gave you the order, now you're playing Ray and actually planning the diamonds.
yeah.
I think
So
that's the way you were basically already doing it.
some, forgive me for saying this, but it sounds to me like then with some of the elements you've just mentioned, in terms of character skill sets and progression and stuff, that there's an element of RPG to that.
Like in San Andreas.
Where you'd have to level up characters and things like that. And I think that's quite an interesting direction to take it, certainly for something like GTA.
or unlock stuff to find the most skilled people.
Yeah,
Make connections with other ways to find the most skilled people. In
that's
other
Yeah,
pretty
but
words,
if
cool.
you have like a
there could be
less,
harder missions. Yeah.
yeah, if you have a less skill, if like let's just take Michael as the bad example, okay? Then if you have Michael, I actually meant Dante, my bad. If you have Dante um, being not so well with hacking and stuff, okay, that's all right. if he survives missions, the more missions he survives, the better he gets. So instead of like hiring a high-ranked guy who knows everything about it, you can get like a middle-class guy and train him until he's the highest rank. So same goes for Michael, Trevor, and Franklin. The RPG element, like in San Andreas, where you had the shooting that you needed to do. Like if you had for the Uzis, you had a maximum weapon skill, you would get dual wielding Uzis. That sort of stuff. I'm not sure if they actually get dual wielded, but we'll find about that.
So, I mean, that also has quite interesting implications for the multiplayer side of things.
Yeah,
Especially if that's the kind of way that you're going to be able to level up in multiplayer and stuff, and plan together to do heists online and things. That's pretty cool.
I wish I could
If
tell you
that
more
would be the case.
about the multiplayer at this point, but unfortunately, there is one thing that was mentioned in the previews and that about the multiplayer, and that is that in one click of a button, you're in multiplayer. D-pad down, I believe. But
If it
just like
wasn't,
in Remember Burnout Paradise, where you just click on your D-pad and bam, you are in multiplayer.
yeah.
Because you got a character wheel where you can select Michael, Trevor, Franklin, or your multiplayer correct character.
Now, do you think that there's single player elements that you can beat with pulling it, going into multiplayer?
Probably
Yeah.
not.
See, that's what I was just
That would
thinking.
be
That
nice.
sounds to me like there's some elements there where you could pull like people's multiplayer characters into your single player campaign and vice versa. The drop in, drop out sort of co-op type multiplayer experience. And if that really is the case, then I take my hat off to them. That they've done something that very few games on PS3 seem to do with drop in, drop out co-op.
I really hope we can get some more multiple multiplayer information really soon, because personally I think we got enough information for single player right now, because if they're going to tell more than they are doing right now, they're spoiling too much.
Mm.
I really would like them to start giving us some more multiplayer information, because be honest, if you're a guy like me who's going to play this game way too much, he's probably going to spend more time in multiplayer than in single player.
Well, I
Depends
don't
on
know.
the
I mean, the
trophies,
thing
of
that
course.
I don't know, GTA has always traditionally been sold on its single player
Yeah,
experience.
obviously, but I
Um,
mean,
so I imagine multiplayer is probably going to be the last thing that they'll probably reveal, if anything, to getting towards a September release date.
yeah, of course, but I mean, I would really like to know what they're going to do with it.
Hmm.
Don't we all? I think that's the key thing for me as well. I would, if Rockstar really are making this complete, I guess rebuild of the GTA universe, as it were, and really are going to push the boat out with this, is because it will be the last GTA we see on current gen platforms. Um,
Mhm.
I would like to think they're going to do something special with the multiplayer side of it and actually invest the time in it, because let's be honest, the multiplayer in GTA 4, it's fun, nobody's denying that, but it does seem a lot of the time when you play it and the constant issues and bugs that have come with the game and stuff, it seems like multiplayer is sort of like a last minute shoe-in as opposed to something they really thought, let's
They
put
did
that
it for
into
the
the game.
fans.
Yeah.
They did it for the fans. They didn't want to put in multiplayer, but they did it for the fans. But I gotta agree with you. In GTA 4, like the core game, there's not much to do as in terms of like free mode. But if you would go like to the Battle of Gate Tony, you got the base jumps, and in the Lost and Damned you got all kinds of different modes which are really fun.
Hmm.
I mean, I've been playing the Lost and Damned today, and you can see like a lot of stuff. The more you play the DLC modes, the more you see how much they're leaning towards GTA 5.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because when I was done with the 100%, I had $1 million, and I decided, oh well, I'm just gonna spend $1 million on rocket launchers and go to a strip club. What happened after that I won't mention because there are probably children listening.
But you know, I'm still secretly hoping that Rockstar will revisit the 80s. I still think my favourite is Vice City, and I'd love them to do something along those lines again. Um, they just seem to be going a bit too modern with them. Each time it's like a screenshot of the world as it is at that time, and I'm kind of like, no, give me 80s, goddammit. So
Yeah.
what other info did we get? Obviously we got new trailers, we got some new screenshots. I saw on Twitter that you said something about there was an Easter egg in one of the trailers.
Yes, there was an Easter egg on the. I won't. Whatever. I just go into detail. In the Trevor trailer, when Trevor jumps out of the car and the car gets hit by the train, if you am a guy like me and watch that stuff frame by frame, you will notice that on the train it says LS 2004. Well, Dante, it's your honor to use your tiny brain and explain us what that means.
I have no idea.
Los
You're
Santos
talking to.
2004.
I was going to say you're talking to someone that's got the sniffles and a cold. I can't think that far ahead.
Los Santos 2004, a reference to the original San Andreas.
But is that an important thing though? I'm just wondering.
It's an Easter egg and it's pretty damn cool.
Hmm.
Hmm.
No, I just wondered if it was really that important because we know the Rockstar tend to throw in quite a lot of weird and wonderful
Well,
hidden
there
things
were
into
also
the
like
world.
Grove Street tags and because gang life is coming back, the ballers are back, which is another interesting thing because during police chases, if you are followed by the police stations, wow, by the police, that the classic wanted system will return, but there will be 5 stars instead of 6. The army will return and the SWAT teams. Now I'm going to quote a part of a preview here. Okay, I quote: "They make the police encounters sound better too. In the new game, we can still try to escape the circular zone that flashes on the minimap when the cops come after our beep protagonists. But this time we'll be able to try to hide inside the alarm radius if we would like. The cops will be using line of sight systems so they won't magically know where you are. If there are any helicopters in the sky, they will be able to see plenty. But if you see them using high uh, hand signals to communicate what they're doing. Also, if you drive into, for example, Ballas territory, the Ballas will start shooting at the cops, and that way you will distract the cops, and you will just get a clean, nice getaway, because then the Ballas are to blame for what you have done.
It's
But
quite
yeah,
clever.
there are signs of Grove Street returning because they're, Lamar, the friend of Franklin. I'm
Yeah.
probably saying stuff you don't know, but if you watch the Franklin trailer, you can see a guy wear a green cap with LS on it, which is the exact same cap as Sweet, the brother of CJ, wears in GTA San Andreas.
Do you,
So that may be an Easter egg, or there are strong signs that Grove Street will be returning, and in some part of the trailer of Franklin, I jumped out of my chair and said, "That's Grove Street," but I might be wrong.
do you think we'll see CJ in the new one?
No,
No.
because they said we're not going to we're not able to put the SD characters in an HD universe because they will just look weird.
Hmm.
Yeah, but I mean they can build the character models for it in HD. Start fresh. It's
Yeah, I'm
not.
gonna hire Nico to be on my crew.
Well, they have mentioned that there will be characters, but not like the really big ones. But the Lost MC has, the biker gang of Johnny from the Lost and Damned, has a chapter in Los Santos, and Trevor is having a feud with them later on in the game. So we
Hmm.
might see Johnny or like that. That might actually be pretty cool that you will be fighting against Johnny or actually make peace or something.
Yeah,
Huh.
that'll be pretty cool with some crossovers, definitely.
So
Yeah.
I gotta ask, what's the most surprising thing that you've learned about the game?
Um. Well, Rockstar are actually a bunch of sneaky
People.
people. Yes, that was the word I was looking for because you think that they had um, delayed the game because they wanted to make it look better, but the sneaky people were so nice to actually throw in more customization because you got player customization, vehicle customization, and a weapon customization now. But there were, and you can buy properties and all that stuff. So they just threw that in there
Do you think
because of the
Huh.
delay. And that's sweet. Everyone was like, "What?" They said that we weren't able to buy property, and every character has his own set of properties they can buy. So, for example, Trevor can buy his own new trailer, and
New
Michael
trailer,
can buy his own new Corvette, and Franklin
penthouse.
can buy his own, let's just say, ladies' club.
Um, not to get you to go off on a rant or anything, but I wonder if they've put in more customization. Do you think that may be a knee-jerk reaction to the increasing popularity of Saints Row the 4? Saints Row 4, which is obviously coming out the month beforehand, or do you think that's something that Rockstar have genuinely, when they sat down to sort of design the game in the first place, they thought, well, yeah, we'll put that in, or
I'm going to answer that with a fact. GTA San Andreas had that, the player customization and the vehicle customizations, and 2 years later, a little game named Saints Row came out with the same customization. So, you're wrong.
Who got there first?
Hipster GTA San Andreas.
no, but I guess what I'm saying is that obviously
No, but
you
that's
didn't
just what the
see.
fans wanted. It has nothing to do with Saints Row, I'm sure, because everyone, most of 90% of the people you speak and you ask to them, what's the best GTA ever made, or what is your favorite GTA? You got Dante who say GTA 5 City, but most of the people say San Andreas, and the reason why is because there was so much to do, there was so much customization, and if you were bald, you could magically get an afro.
Uh,
Hmm. So if there's all this customization, but there's already characters built in there that have a unique look and appearance, and one lives in a trailer, another might live in a penthouse. How is that customization really gonna
Well, you
affect?
got tattoos, haircuts, and clothing, and then
So we're
for the
not gonna be able to
vehicles,
basically change the way like Trevor looks or
no,
something. We're not gonna
no,
be
no.
able to suit him all up nice and pretty and
Well, you can because like he doesn't only have his dirty clothes and when he's pissing in his trailer while cooking drugs, but
huh.
like for
sounds
the
to me like a
vehicles, you
bit.
got basically the stuff like the San Andreas and then some more stuff like
Well, I'm saying you're not
spoilers.
gonna give him like long blonde hair and make him look 20 years old.
Probably not. I'm not sure. I mean, all the information that is there is that you can get haircuts, tattoos, and clothing. I imagine you can go to a fancy shop and give Trevor a suit, but of course you may or may not get a reaction from like Trevor, like, what the absolute flip flop is this? You know?
Uh,
I mean,
Huh.
that wasn't detailed in the preview, so I mean I can be going speculating like a certain YouTube show, but I won't just don't want to do that because I don't want to.
So they're doing it more semi-realistic where you can only do things that you could do, going and getting tattoos and things and clothes.
Yeah,
That's
but
cool.
what's the
I can
point
appreciate
of
that.
giving Trevor huge breasts? I mean, I don't see the point of that.
Well, it might be something, for a funny.
Play
the
Saints Row for that.
multiplayer.
If you want a crappy game where you can do a lot of customization, go play Saints Row. If you want to call it a game and a game of the year of this year, go play GTA 5.
uh, well,
Yeah,
and somebody's always going to think of something to, take advantage of customization like that anyway. You get a tattoo, so somebody's going to get, Dante Zero sit here or something like that across their face or, you know.
No, but look at it this way. I mean, if the game is going to be releasing on PC, you get stuff like in GTA 4. You get dinosaurs and horses running through Liberty City. I mean,
Yeah.
what does it matter? I mean, if you people are really handy with mods and stuff, so it's just a matter of time. I mean, you can mod on the Xbox. I mean, if you load up uh, the Belt of Gay Tony or whatever on Xbox and play some free modes, you can see people fly around and with all kinds of crazy mods.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the other thing I
So
was going to just say, I mean, we can be dismissive of Saints Row, but it is worth pointing out that Rockstar, certainly with GTA 5 and any other GTA games going forward, are definitely going to have to start really thinking outside of the box, and can't get lazy with the development side of things, because even though we sort of laugh at Saints Row and say, oh, they're trying to be the next GTA and blah blah blah, there's no denying that the game is selling relatively well. Saints Row is popular, and in some respects, okay, it's not going to do the same numbers as GTA is whenever they come out, but at the same time, it's still competition for them. Take Call of Duty for example. Obviously, Call of Duty still sells tons, but look how many first-person shooters come out to compete with Call of Duty. That kind of keeps Activision a little bit on their toes sometimes. I'm just wondering if this is going to obviously have the same effect, because Saints Row in some respects still has a lot to prove, whereas GTA doesn't. It's got to kind of maintain its reputation. They get something wrong, and that could, quite easily tip the scales in one, in favour of one or the other. So, be interesting to see.
I mean, I gotta be honest. Saints Row went its own way, which is actually alright. You got the wacky stuff and shit, and I might like buy Saints Row 4 just to see what's up, and then probably going to regret buying it like I did with Saints Row the Third, but whatever. But GTA 4 went really serious, and a lot of people didn't like it, like I said. But now they're leaning a lot like to the not Saints Row, San Andreas,
Mm.
and I think a lot of people appreciate that more.
Yeah. I'm just curious at how many discs this is going to contain on on an Xbox 360 version.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting because the demo was demonstrated on the PS3, so.
Hmm. Be interesting, wouldn't it? I read somewhere the other day that what is it? The Metal Gear Solid Legacy Collection can't go onto Xbox 360 because if it did, it would take 7 discs, including Metal Gear Solid 4. So obviously, if you bought it, you'd get 7 discs in the box. It does make me wonder as well how they've managed to, Rockstar have managed to really push it out. I'm surprised. I think you said this before, GTA, and they still have yet to sort of really say anything too much about the next generation. Obviously, we know that GTA 5 isn't necessarily coming across, but obviously that's probably going to change going forward with the PS4. But it does seem strange that, given Rockstar's close ties with Sony and Microsoft, that they haven't really thought about the PS4, the next Xbox version.
Well, I think it's more important to them to get this versions right first before actually focusing on the next one, because GTA 5 is going to be a huge game, and I don't
Yeah,
think you want to mess that
yeah,
up.
but think how much bigger it's going to be if it sells on a new platform as well.
Maybe
We've
they are
seen it.
working on it. We don't know, but
Yeah.
I think we may or may not get a lot more information about all kinds of games. Like maybe a Saints Row 4 will be like, bam, we're going to next gen consoles as well. Once the new Xbox is announced, people can just start announcing all kinds of stuff because they don't have to be resolving a whole mystery around it. Like, ooh, PS4, and then
Yeah.
yeah, that other next generation consoles, which we actually cannot mention, but we know the name for like years already.
Well, we are going to mention it in a minute, but so when do you expect to see obviously more information from Rockstar? Because obviously E3 is coming up next month, and we'll go into that in a minute. But um, E3 is coming up next month, and obviously I believe that Rockstar aren't going to be attending
Nope,
E3. Well, we say they're not going to be attending, but you never know.
it's
Um,
Rockstar.
Exactly. So, and obviously Take-Two is still going to be there, even if Rockstar aren't. So, when do you reckon the next time we'll probably have some more information? Do you reckon it'll probably be sort of July time, August time, that sort of time frame,
Well,
or
I'm going to get my Rockstar dictionary on this one and say in a few weeks or so.
really?
In a few weeks or so means in Rockstar language in a couple of months. No, but I really don't know because the marketing for GTA 5 is like in full swing now.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, we got a boatload of information right now.
Mm.
We're gonna get like at least 1 or 2 weeks of silence now because if as someone that works for a website, I of course I post all the trailers, but a good example of bad marketing is Tomb Raider. Every single week there was a new trailer. That's just too much.
I don't know.
That's
It
my
wasn't that
opinion.
bad. Oh, there wasn't a new trailer for Tomb Raider, really. Nah.
Almost every single week there was a trailer, especially during the time when it
No, they did.
almost
They did
launched.
do a lot of. They did do a lot of developer
That
diaries
was
over the two
way too
years,
much.
but no, I don't think it was. Team Raid had a lot to answer for, really. So we won't go into that. Um, but as I say, the reason I brought it up obviously was because, as I just mentioned before, E3, it's only a month away, and that kind of brings us on nicely onto our main topic of today, which is obviously going to be about E3 predictions, what we expect to see and stuff. Because it's summertime, I want us to have like a positive spin on it all, and in the sort of theme of being cheerful and upbeat, I kind of want us to get people get excited for E3 again, because let's be honest, the last two E3s have been, mediocre at best.
Why?
Just
I
crap in
love the
it.
I love the Xbox conference. There was so much stuff with Kinect. I loved it because all I could do was just bash on Kinect on Twitter. Like, oh look, a new game is it with Kinect? I
Yeah.
mean, don't you just love that? No, but seriously, it was trash.
Okay, well, before we go into the E3 stuff, I want to ask you guys this question. Obviously, we saw about PS4 back in February. That's probably going to be showcased at E3. Do you think
PS4?
Mike just...
Never heard of
You
it.
are?
There's a PS4 coming out? Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, why didn't anybody tell me?
It, is
Shock,
that
stop
is
the
that a
presses.
is that a podcast that runs till 3 a.m.?
um, Obviously, with that, we know that's coming, and we'll see more of that at E3. What I'm slightly sort of confused about, really, is that Microsoft have chosen to hold a special event in much the same way that Sony have. Um, this is actually going to take place on May the 21st, I believe.
We
Now,
get new Call of Duty gameplay! Oh my god!
I'm kind of a bit confused why Microsoft have chosen to do this, because obviously E3 is only like 2.5 weeks after their press conference. Because I don't know if you've seen the schedule for E3 yet. Obviously, it's the same as it was last year. Microsoft are up first. Then obviously you got the Sony press conference, and we still really don't know if Nintendo are actually intending to turn up yet or not. So do you guys find that kind of weird that
Yes.
they're kind of jumping the gun by 3 weeks, and it's kind of like, well, what's the point? Because it's going to make that much difference, or
I say it's a late answer to finding out that PlayStation had the press conference. I think that they did that because of that.
I think it's playing safe because if you have your own event, you can center the attention around your new console, and then 2 weeks later, you announce more games or whatever.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I
but
suspect that if
It's
Sony hadn't done anything, Microsoft wouldn't be doing anything.
but look at it from this perspective though, which is if Microsoft announced the new console, um, you know, Microsoft are going to show the thing off. They have to. They will do. They're going to show the new stuff off. They're going to show the hardware. They're going to show the games running on it, as you mentioned, like Call of Duty. Activision already said they'll be there, to help Microsoft out with that. And it begs the question then, what will Microsoft have in their locker for E3? Because when you look at what Sony have done, and Sony have done it very cleverly, is they've said, yes, we've got a PS4 coming. They've talked about technology. They've, spoken to the
You
designers
can't
and
see
got
it
them
yet.
on board with it. We've seen games, but we've been given, we've basically been given a brief taste that's left us wanting more. I can't see the Microsoft event doing the same thing. Because for Microsoft, are going to have to Microsoft probably will do a huge blowout, and and as I say, it just doesn't. It makes me question it a little bit because, and then I'm like, well, then surely E3, Sony have got that in the bag.
well,
Well,
I
think about
think
it. I
that
mean, it queues up E3 to just be all about Sony.
Yeah,
Because at that point, the excitement will start to build again
which is
for
why
Sony's
I think
PS4.
Microsoft's going to copy the same format. They're having their conference, even though it is just a couple weeks before E3. They're doing the same thing, so they can get kind of a little bit of their mojo back.
But do you think that's too late? I think it is. I think if they were going to do a knee-jerk reaction to that, I think they've kind of missed the point, and the time frame. Really, they could have reacted sort of and planned something for the middle of April. I think now that we're now in May and
Well,
we
they'll do the
haven't
same
seen it.
thing. They'll show stuff off. They'll talk about the technology, but they won't reveal everything. Maybe not even like what it looks like. Those kind of
You've
things.
never watched a Microsoft press conference, have you? They will. They'll show off everything.
Nah, they won't do it before this. Not with this right before E3. They'll hold something like that for
But
E3.
they're not going to come back and say, "Oh, right, okay, here's what we're all about. Oh, and by the way, we're going to show you our new system in like 3 weeks." Because people will just be the same as me. What's the point of that? Why can't you show it me now? Why do I have to wait 3 weeks?
Yeah, but why have a conference and show everything and then have E3 a couple weeks later and you got nothing else to go with?
Well, that's what I'm
because you can
questioning
do
on
the
Microsoft's
Kinect stuff.
Connect.
Then you can focus your conference on all the Kinect stuff for the
If
next
they do that
Xbox.
again,
But
that'll be sad. That will
Well,
be very sad.
I think we know that Microsoft are
They're
going
gonna
to
have to
probably
hold
do.
something out of this conference. If they don't, Dante, I can't see. It's like I said, I believe it's a response to the Sony having a conference, and there's only one way to play it at this point, and that's to
Yeah.
leave something, dangle something out there that E3 they're gonna reveal, and what more fits into that than the actual look of it.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be anticlimactic for them. I think they're going to blow their load like way before
Think about the
E3.
PS3, PS4. What do people want to know at this point? We want to know what the damn console looks like.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
that's what's on everyone's brain. That's what's been left hanging out there.
Yeah. And we want to know how much more social features we get because we're really looking forward to that. More Facebook integration, please.
He
If you
says
say
random
so.
on Twitter, which is a social network. Yeah.
Twitter's, whatever.
Twitter's the new Facebook. Yeah, we know. Um,
Say what?
Twitter's the new Facebook.
Okay.
Twitter is
You not
better
know?
than Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm old
Yeah.
school.
Old school. You're not even
I mail-
new school.
I mail
you know,
letters
you know, I was going to say you need to be new
You're
school
old.
before
Go
you can
away,
be
Grandpa.
old. You need to be new school before you can be old school. You haven't even used Facebook properly. We had that discussion the other show, didn't we?
I've heard of it.
So, So E3 then, obviously we've dealt with the elephant in the room, which obviously the Microsoft thing. So what things are you guys expecting from E3 when it comes to Sony and PS4, PS3, and PS Vita? And I'm interested to get some of your thoughts and what you'd like to see as well.
Well, there's you mentioned another thing with PS Vita. Sony's kind of I think going to kind of tout how they've got a handheld and they can make that work well with the PS4. I think we'll see a lot more of that at E3. And then I think Microsoft has to kind of take the direction about a lot of other things working with their console. So I would expect that they will probably go the route of more things involving tablets
Yeah, but
and control with that.
see, I'm curious about that because when we saw the PS4 press conference, Sony made it very clear that they were looking at a similar system to Smart Glass, and they've actually got the thing working through apps and stuff where you'd be able to, access your PSN through PlayStation based apps on your phone and your things. So in some respect, by Sony doing that, that then makes it a non-unique feature on Microsoft's part, and so it makes me wonder as well. I mean, you look at what Sony have got to talk about at E3. They've got the Vita, they've obviously still got life in the PS3, and then you've got the PS4, and with Microsoft it comes down to just the Xbox.
Yeah, but the Kinect's going to tell you if you lose your iPad, it's going to tell you where you left it in your house.
But I guess what I'm saying is when you look at things like Kinect and Smart Glass, they're all ways to interact with your Xbox system, but essentially they're relying on people to obviously buy the Xbox system. When you look at what Sony are doing, you can take your gaming on the go with your Vita. Obviously you've got your PS3 and then you've got the PS4. The ecosystem's a hell of a lot larger when it comes to Sony than it is with Microsoft, and then you look at all the other things that Sony have, PlayStation Move, for example, the new camera system, the new controller and stuff, and I can't see Microsoft doing any of that kind of thing.
Well, they
the
need
smart
something to
glass
stand
thing.
out. I mean,
Well,
they've got to have some trick up their sleeve. You don't just come out there with a console and say, well, it's improved in every area with graphics and better,
have you learned
storage and
nothing from the constant re-releases of Windows?
well, that's one thing that Microsoft does have. Outside of
Windows
Apple,
Vista!
they do have that connection there with software. So I mean, maybe something's kind of going to come out of that. But
It's like Windows 8 is the same as Windows 7 with a new coat of paint.
and a few bugs thrown in
Oh,
for good measure.
Windows 8 is trash. It's
Yeah.
made for tablets and phones.
Well, it's interesting as well. We talk about how much, we've spoken in the past as well about how much that Sony need to get back on an even keel in terms of, winning back consumers and, the financial side of things. And it's interesting now because, the momentum seems to be with Sony at the moment. And that isn't sort of talking from a fanboy's perspective. I mean, we kind of have to look at it from this way. Microsoft, as it stands at the moment, obviously Windows 8 isn't doing very good.
No.
It's not selling at all. Microsoft Service tablets are doing atrocious in terms of sales and so on. The Windows phones are not doing very well either. The mobile Windows operating system is not doing very well. So for this, Microsoft really need to nail this on the head because otherwise, when you then look at Microsoft, you look at everything they're doing is, yes, they're making money, but they're not doing it very well in terms of quality products, and that's going to drag people down. I wonder if the negative impact of some of these things are going to have an effect as to whether or not people will buy the next generation Xbox. If you think about it, if you're put it this way, if you're an Xbox 360 die-hard fan, you go out, you buy a new computer, you get Windows 8 home on your new computer, and you realise how trash it is. And then Microsoft come out and say, oh yeah, we've got a new Xbox system and it's built on the same infrastructure as Windows 8. You're going to start
Oh, if
questioning
they
that
do
fanboyism,
that,
isn't you?
Yeah, well, I
dude,
would hope they would learn from their
Windows
mistakes.
8
They
is so
putting
bad.
putting too much, one of the things about their software is like that I've always had a problem with is they try to make it too robust and they put too much crap in there and it's not anything that you can decide upon. It's just all included. So like for those of us that when we were trying to buy the top of the line computers, you would get back in the day it would be 1 or 2 gigabytes of RAM, and Windows would use all of that resource. So you would basically anything else you put on the computer was just basically getting gobbled up by all the Windows using all the resources. So I don't know. They need to focus on something with like you were talking about with apps and things. I think that's more. If they're not doing that, they're going to be in trouble. If they're trying to bring something from another place and put it on a console, they're going to be shooting themselves in the foot. Right away. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
see Windows. You don't want to start up your console and see a Windows operating system like that would. I bet they'd lose half their Xbox
Yeah.
customers right from that.
And I think it's fair to assume that we already know that in some respect the next Xbox is going to have some sort of cable TV integration into it. And,
Yeah.
there's obviously rumours that, Microsoft are looking to, what was it, look at bringing across a similar sort of success story as the App Store is on iOS. Microsoft have been making a lot of noise about that lately, that that's the next thing we're going to gum for. And it kind of begs the question, when you look at the two major console manufacturers, and Sony and Microsoft, people often say, well, why do you prefer one over the other? And I think, with Microsoft's have stopped sort of over the last, I'd say at least 10 years, has stopped really innovating, and are really trying to prove themselves to people, but by taking other people's stuff and saying, look, we can do this better. Whereas I think with Sony, and we've certainly seen this present over the last couple of years, where Sony are just constantly innovating. They build stuff not because they have to, they want to. We saw that with those 3D glasses a little bit. Last year, I think it was last year, the 3D glasses headset,
3D.
and they promoted 3D. They've lost lots of money. Doing stuff with new technologies and things, but again, you could argue, well, it's a waste of money. But from Sony's perspective, what they'll look at is they'll say, right, well, we've successfully realised that isn't going to work for us, and so we'll continue to innovate. And we've certainly seen that on the PS Vita as well, with Sony's aggressive push to get a hell of a lot more indie games onto the PlayStation network, and most of them are now releasing on PS Vita first before anywhere else.
So what do you figure that Microsoft needs to do then?
Just go away.
Well,
Sorry,
that is
I
an
know
option,
that's
isn't
a
it?
very biased, flippant sort of comment to make, and if anyone takes offence,
I
apologies.
wouldn't I wouldn't want to
But
lose
I know what they should do. They should get rid of all the advertisements and actually make the next Xbox a gaming console. Because being someone that actually does own an Xbox, when I boot up my Xbox, all I see is advertisements for the new Call of Duty map pack. And then on the top left corner, I can actually select play a game. Because the thing, PS3 is a lot less, but it's heading the same way with PS4, with all the social media and oh my god, look at this video, and you can buy a subscription for videos with this and music and that. I mean, you got a computer for that, man. You buy
yeah,
a
no,
gaming consoles to buy games and not to share and care about other people's lives
yeah,
on
I think I
Facebook.
think I think you kind of missed the point of Sony's press conference, GTA, man, and we'll have a discussion about that another day, because I don't really want to go into it over the show when we've already addressed it before. But I think in terms of what Microsoft need to do, I genuinely don't know, because when we look at the industry big boys, prior to Sony's arrival on the scene, you had Sega and Nintendo. And Sony have pushed the industry along so far that Sony are probably the most important out of the big three that need to be pushing the industry forward. And what we've unfortunately seen the last couple of years is that, Sony haven't been at the forefront with obviously PS3 as they'd hoped. And that's in some respect, I think Sony, have already admitted in some respect that that's arrogance, a little bit of arrogance on their part, that they thought they were going to breeze out the blocks. But I would like to, I'd certainly like to see Microsoft and their shady business practices stop a little bit, because I think we're worse off as gamers.
Good luck with that.
Since Microsoft came in, the buying of timed exclusivities and stuff like this, the fact that they have to go and spend 50 million quid on, buying an exclusive game, and that annoys the crap out of me.
Don't forget their advertising that's only on Xbox.
Yeah, the misleading advertising doesn't help. It confuses a lot of consumers as well, I think, and people buy Xboxes because they've seen an advert. Sadly, advertising does work. So when you see an advert that says, "Oh, this great game's only on Xbox," you kind of think that's the case, and quite often, it's a multi-platform game that's available on all platforms. So I'd like to see that kind of go away as well. That really aggressive, and I mean, there's aggressive marketing, and then there's Microsoft. You know what I'm saying? And they push it a bit too far with that. So I'd like to see Microsoft cut that out. I'd like to see Microsoft become a bit more friendly and understanding with gamers as well, because you look at the first-party studios that Microsoft have, and compare that to, say, someone like Sony who are whacking out exclusive PS3 games left, right, and centre. Microsoft rely extremely heavily on third parties to provide them with exclusive content. And you think, why can't you do that in-house? Do you see what I'm saying? If I even now, several years on, I look at the Xbox 360 and I think, which do I prefer? And if I'm looking at games, looking at just purely based on games, forget all the other crap like online multiplayer, UI, Xbox Live, and so on. If I'm looking for exclusive games, I ain't touching a 360 because there's just nothing there.
Well,
the Call of Duty map packs earlier.
But that's 4 weeks early. That doesn't. I can wait 4 weeks. Many COD
You're
addicts
not buying
can't,
the DLC anyway.
No, exactly. But I'm looking at this from the bigger picture. If you sort of say, right, I want some of the best games on the market, and but I can only buy one platform. Which platform's going to offer me the best exclusive games? You just can't. You can't take Microsoft seriously because they've done so much damage to their own internal studios. I think they only own about 4 internal game studios at the moment. They've shut all the rest of them down. And that, for me, just says that Microsoft really isn't interested in gaming at all.
Well, I would hate to lose them either way. I honestly, I would love to see. I think we need an iConsole. What do you think? Seriously. Why isn't Apple in the console business?
I imagine they probably will do at some point. I think Apple are patiently looking at what the Android games console, the cheap one, what's it called, Ouya. I think they're looking at what that's going to do first before they make a move, and obviously Steam.
Yeah, but Android games and all that, that's like it's on a different level. I hate to say it, but I don't, and I appreciate that phone games and everything, and even Facebook games and stuff are all becoming very popular, but it's on a different level to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't even equate to, anything even handheld. It's not the same as a Vita is saying, well, I got my phone games on my phone that I can play on the go. It's just...
Yeah, but see here, and
that
and
gap
it's
will
exactly,
take a long time to bridge.
It's exactly that kind of thing that makes me wonder whether or not Microsoft really are serious about gamers anyway. Because I mean, if you look at Nintendo and Sony, they have a portable platform history, and they haven't, they're fighting against phone games and stuff with dedicated portable handheld games, yet we still haven't seen anything portable from Microsoft, bar being able to Xbox achievements on a mobile phone game that is published by Microsoft, and those sorts of games come few and far between. But I wouldn't necessarily say a mobile phone is a dedicated gaming platform. And Sony and Nintendo take that sort of avenue of their business very seriously, whereas Microsoft is sort of like, let's see what extra things we can bundle into a home console, but they're not looking at the bigger picture. They're not looking, well, do gamers play on the go? If so, how can we make that relevant to what we're doing at home?
Yeah, I don't know why they try to keep that fight going either with Android and Apple's, with their phones. And I mean, Sony makes phones. They just put Android operating systems on them. They just put, however they want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But no, in terms of Microsoft, I'd like them to, there's one, you could argue for the last couple of years that Sony have been arrogant in some respects, but they've still done a lot of things right, and they're the first people to admit they've been a bit arrogant. But when you look at Microsoft, they're not laying up. They're totally arrogant. They're totally dismissive of a lot of things. That are important to gamers, and I think that's going to come full circle this time round. I think it's really going to hurt Microsoft come E3 time, and I think it just goes to show with the poor planning of their press conference, to reveal the new Xbox 3 weeks before E3. Everybody will get excited about the new Xbox, and then it'll be back to PS4 on E3, and Sony will walk away with it. So. It's very bizarre, but I can't see Microsoft.
Well, I still don't know what their answer is to Blu-ray. I still don't know. There's a lot of things like that.
Yeah, it's
and then poor Nintendo. What do you think, GTA man? Does Nintendo even have? Should they just drop out of consoles altogether? Are you holding off for the? Are you holding off for GTA 5 on the Wii U?
No.
Us them 4? No.
Now, first off, I think the whole Xbox reveal thing is just a cover for the reveal of the new Call of Duty, because I think that I'm not even joking. I think it's like, all right, we got this new Call of Duty. Microsoft has that thing all up in the air, like, oh my God, look, a new engine. So that means we're finally getting a PS3 version of Call of Duty. I mean, the whole Xbox reveal thing is just basically just to hype the thing up for E3, I think. As for Nintendo, Dante, go ahead. You can say something now.
I was just going to say, yeah, but hyping it up 3 weeks beforehand just seems a little too late.
It's Microsoft.
It's an answer to Sony's press conference. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but it's still too late.
Yeah, but
it's too close to E3.
Exactly.
Which is why it's an answer to Sony. It's like, we're going to hold a press conference before E3, the day before. It's along the same lines. It's just like, it makes no sense unless you look at it in the context of like...
well, they go first.
So Sony put out their conference, and then, some Microsoft executives said, where's ours? Started kicking...
It'd be like Ubisoft coming out the day before, as you say, and saying, well, we've got all these games we want to talk about. Oh, and by the way, we've got a press conference tomorrow.
Yeah.
Speaking of bad decisions, Nintendo. Why, and again, why are they not attending on the E3? I mean, that's the stupidest mistake they can make, because... You have the E3, alright? You got 3 days where everyone is focused on E3 in the gaming world, alright? Why not hold a press conference?
I think from Nintendo's perspective, they're looking at both the monetary side of things, because obviously they're not...
What do you mean money? It costs more money to do the whole Nintendo Direct thing than to go to E3.
It doesn't cost more money to do a live stream announcing games across the internet.
Yeah, with funny, poorly Japanese people who can't speak English.
But do you see what I'm saying, though? In terms of look at it from Nintendo's point of view, it's like we can pay, you know, hundreds of millions of pounds on a marketing exercise, but the thing is, the Wii U's not selling. They're not gaining any revenue from the Wii anymore. Um, they're actually, I think, they're selling the Wii U at a loss at the moment. And they haven't really done too much with the pricing on that, and it's still not selling. Even with the announcements
Because
of
they
new
need to
games and
release
stuff.
games for it.
Well, no, even with the release of games, it's still not selling. Even
I
though
mean,
there's a lot of interest there. So, from Nintendo's perspective, it's like, well, we're going to cut off the fat to try and save money, because you've got to look at it from this perspective. Sony and Microsoft generate revenue from other avenues of business. Sony have got all their electronics, Microsoft's got all the software. When you look at Nintendo are essentially just pure games. And games consoles. If one of those fails, that's even with the cash reserves that Nintendo have, those cash reserves can dwindle pretty quickly when you're not selling things that are not hot property. So you know what I'm saying. From Nintendo's perspective, they've really got to think, because they can't just come out with a new console after 2 years, because the others won't be doing that, and the traction is really. For people to be more interested in Sony and Microsoft than it is with the Wii U, and unless Nintendo really pulls something out of the bag, you know, the only thing that's going to be left for Nintendo is something along the lines of the DS, and even then, that's still got too many flaws for it to be reliant on your main income.
yeah, but the problem is, I mean, look at the games that the Wii U releases, right? You got Pokemon, you got Mario, you got Zelda, you got all the typical like Nintendo stuff. But after that, there's nothing. There's re-releases of old games that have been out for like 2 or 3 years. Nobody wants to buy that. You got a PS3 and Xbox they had 2 or 3 years ago. I
Yeah,
mean,
they've
why
Well,
dropped
don't
the ball
you
a
we
bit.
talked about
re-release
this.
that?
We talked about this before too. That the Wii and everything was being purchased by an older crowd. So you had some of the retro gamers and stuff in there as part of the crowd, but then you also have people that are more into the party games and the things that they can play with their grandkids. So
Yeah, but that's where the
they
Wii is
they've
for.
kind
I
of
mean,
missed the
if
boat.
you want to sell a console, you gotta get the hardcore gamers in there as well.
Yeah, I
Because
think
if you don't, your console won't sell.
I think GTA makes a really good point,
Yeah.
and
Well, they
certainly
have
with
Call of Duty
things.
and stuff on, but
Yeah, but
people just don't know
Who is
about it.
going to play Call of Duty on a Wii?
Well,
well,
that's just it. I mean, it's not so much that they don't have the games; it's that they don't tout them. There's nothing special about them, and they're obviously, in my opinion, the
I think
graphics
like
and stuff are
300
better
people
on.
playing Call of Duty on the Wii U.
but people do.
I'm serious.
The point I think that GCM is making, it's a very valid point, is take Arkham City for example. That game's come out like a year and a half after the original come out. When Nintendo talked up about third party support and getting the latest releases coming to the Wii U platform, what we didn't expect is that the new releases would come to Xbox 360 and then Wii U 6 months later. That's happened quite often with some of the bigger titles, like the Mass Effect series, for example, and Assassin's Creed 3, and people that have bought a Wii U have said, well, why would I want to buy this again? I've just bought this on launch day for my PS3 or Xbox 360. What, you now want me to buy a slightly enhanced version for my Wii U? It's not worth it, you see, and that's where the problem lies with Nintendo and the Wii U. They haven't gone about, and this is where the extra the Wii U gamepad sort of falls on its face a bit, is because developers are so busy trying to take advantage of the gamepad that it adds extra time to develop. It requires more time to develop the game for Wii U platform, and so therefore it gets delayed. And by then, by the time it does come out, everybody that wanted to play the game's already played the game.
So then
And so,
we can then assume then that it's basically Nintendo's on the outs with all game developers. because if they have to give attention to it after they've released it on other consoles, then clearly it's not a priority. It's not a priority to make a game for Nintendo.
No, I think that most third party, we've seen the amount of third party publishers that have suddenly realised that and dropped support for the Wii U. There's others that have now taken their Wii U projects multi-platform. Probably the most famous of those is Rayman Legends. That was touted to be a huge thing for the Wii U with the technology on the gamepad. Now it's going multi-platform because Ubisoft can't bank on
Just Nintendo, yeah.
it
Don't
being
you think
successful on the
that's
Wii
just
U.
a load of crap? I mean,
No.
really. No, why? I mean, they got the game finished. Why just don't release it on Wii U, then port it, and release it for the other console 6 months later?
Because Ubisoft don't think Rayman Legends will sell on Wii U.
So that's why you're porting it to the other consoles.
No, but here's the thing: will people on PS3 and Xbox 360 necessarily want to buy a game that's failed sales-wise on Wii U? No matter how good it is, it's going to attract a lot of negative press, more so than announcing that the game's no longer going to be a Wii U exclusive. It's going multi-platform. In some respects, that kind of press is better than saying, this game sold crap.
We couldn't sell it on this, so we're going to try and sell it over here.
Do you see what I mean? And so, Ubisoft have been quick to react with that, and fair play to them.
Well, I'm not a fan of the whole port idea anyway, because often that's where you get crap on a certain console or other consoles except
like
for
Call
one.
of Duty.
Well, I mean, you can tell, developers will direct their development towards a certain console. That's always going to happen. The problem that you run into is things like, if GTA 5's coming out and it'll be 7 discs on the on the Xbox, then are they going to cut the game down so it's only 2 discs on the Xbox, and do the people that own the PlayStation get kind of less content because of it? That's the kind of stuff that pisses me off. Plus, I mean, this really speaks to all the consoles. If they're so different, then the whole idea of porting and everything like that shouldn't even be a discussion. If you own a console, if you're Sony, you should say, I don't want to port. Make the game so it works properly on our console, or we don't want it.
Yeah.
It's all about the money.
Yeah.
He's looking at you, Skyrim.
Yeah, I mean, there's an example. There's an example. If they said, well, now it's broken and we have to release this DLC, but sorry about that. We made it for the Xbox, and we didn't understand it wouldn't work for the PlayStation. That's exactly my point, and how that turns off customers. If you're Sony and you got, well, we're not going to let you release this broken. It's just not going to happen. So
yeah, I have to admit, I wish Sony would be a bit more transparent on the whole process with that. And obviously, they can be quite inconsistent with stuff. We've talked before about issues where a game will release on PSN in America and it will have major problems, and yet they'll issue a patch for it within a couple of days. And like here in Europe, it can take 6 months because it failed Q&A on something as simple as the logo not being in the right place at the beginning of the game, which probably takes about a week or so.
Yeah,
to
well,
check.
that could be ridiculous. But I mean, I'm just saying, look up how a port actually works, and it should be a bad word. I don't know. If you got to port something, it's the actual process is.
Well, we never had that problem until Microsoft come along, so you know what the solution to that is, don't you?
Well, are we?
Anyway.
Let's get back to this point. Is Nintendo gone? Are they done?
No, I think they'll be around for a while. I think
I say it's the death knell of Nintendo. I mean, that's my personal.
Yes. I think the Wii U's like the Nintendo's shown time and time again that they can come back.
They'll come back with some handhelds, but I think they'll be stepping out of the actual console market in the long run.
3DS XXL
Yep.
Extravaganza Pikachu Edition.
But I think, in terms of Nintendo, they've only got themselves to blame. That they've kind of shot themselves in the foot. I mean, the whole 2-screen system thing. Just
They
what
did it on
going.
DS,
Yeah,
and
but
it
going
worked.
to
It
But
worked.
they
well,
re-released the DS like
yeah,
ten
but
thousand times, and then they brought the Wii U, which is basically a
yeah,
DS.
but on a DS, you can kind of get away with it because you're talking like small screens, and it's not really an issue looking at both of them. Um, but you're talking about looking at what's the gamepad? Something like 11 inches in length, and the screen on it's about 7 inches or something like that. You're talking about looking at a 7-inch screen while that you've got to hold up in front of your 42-inch screen, and believe it or not, it does have an impact the further away you sit from the TV. So, um, that 11-inch of gamepad then becomes a hell of a lot bigger when you're sat about 6 foot away from your telly. So. And they really didn't think that through. So I think they have shot themselves in the foot a bit with it. I remember going to Eurogamer last year and watching people play on the Wii U and seeming extremely confused with it. Having to hold the screen up and do some. Nintendo have done some interesting things with the AR stuff and like Sony's doing with AR technology, but not to the extent where it's blowing people's minds and imaginations away, and that's kind of sad a little bit. Um, but I think the other problem with Nintendo is they have to stop relying on things like Mario and stuff. Fair enough, Mario sells, Zelda sells, um, and all those things, but you know, it still doesn't just because it sells, it doesn't necessarily mean it's quality and that people won't necessarily want it. We'd like to see Nintendo doing some really cool things, and they're just not doing it. So, if Nintendo unfortunately did go, you know, into just releasing portables and licensing, their IPs to go onto other platforms. So, for example, Mario on through Xbox and Sony. That's probably going to be the best way for Nintendo to proceed because they've backed themselves into such a corner with home consoles that they've screwed themselves over a little bit.
Well, that the other thing too is like Mario. I mean, these we're starting to talk about. I mean, it's almost retro gaming right there. I mean,
Remakes of remakes. It's
yeah. I mean, are we? I mean, Donkey Kong, Asteroids, Pac-Man, and all that might make interesting, cool games, but that doesn't mean you need to bring them up to date and keep putting them out. And we need, version number 32 and for the PS4.
yeah.
There's a point where stuff like that becomes.
Which is interesting when you think about it, because you hear the debate about whether or not sequels to games are a good thing, and people get
You can carry
really
it too far, though.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is people get complacent over 3 or 4 games in the series, yet don't complain when we're talking about the 10th, 12th, 15th Mario game. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do people now? Do the kids nowadays? Do they that play GTA 5 and they're that play Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 5? When are they gonna Super Mario who?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's a different type of game again. I've always said this about the Wii. It's on it's like they consciously put themselves on a lesser level than
Yeah.
regular consoles.
Yeah. It's like we haven't got the financial or technology expertise, so we're just going to do what
Yeah.
we want to
But
do,
we
and
got Super
you know,
Mario 25.
that's admirable. But
Woohoo!
at some point, something's got to give there. So, you can't just keep constantly doing that.
Yeah.
Um, so, there's only so many ways you can, make a wheel look, but at the end of the day, it's still a wheel. So,
Yeah. I
it,
don't know.
you know,
I say they're
it'd be
done with the
interesting to
console
see.
market. That's my call. I've made it before, and that's what I say.
Yeah, or
There
is
won't
this
be
going to be your
anything.
regular yearly thing?
There won't be any.
Every
There won't
year,
be
going to
anything
say
else after.
Nintendo's dead.
No, I'm I don't think that the Wii U. Um, I don't think I just don't see any success there.
Mm.
They're
No,
gonna reach a
I
point
don't
where
think the
these older
Wii
people aren't
U.
gonna be buying that. Um, phone games are gonna take a chunk of their crowd, and then the regular consoles out there from Microsoft, Sony, and hopefully something from like an Apple or something to come in there and step up.
Yeah, I
Because
certainly
competition's
think
good.
I certainly think the landscape's going to definitely change. So you talked quite a bit in depth about manufacturers. So before we sort of start edging towards the end of the show, I want to focus some more on games. Obviously, we know about some of the big games that are due out towards the end of this year. Obviously, we saw, for PlayStation, definitely, we saw Beyond Two Souls. Obviously, The Last of Us is out literally, the day or two after Sony's press conference. And Sony has still got other stuff in hand for the Christmas holiday season, but things like Watch Dogs with exclusive content, Assassin's Creed 4 with exclusive content, and obviously we've got the PS4. So I'm intrigued, in terms of the games that we've had seen, what do you guys think the end of the year is looking like, and in terms of stuff that we haven't, is there anything that you'd want to see?
Well, I'm going to be really honest with you and saying that after September 17th you won't see me play anything. But as for as a gamer guy, this fall is going to be an interesting one because you probably got the PS4 coming out and you got the regular stuff like Call of Duty and Battlefield and Assassin's Creed and then the other stuff like Watch Dogs. But you also got the PS4. So I think it will be interesting to see how the sales are going to split. Or are there going to be a lot of people who are going to buy the new consoles and play the same games that they can play on PS3, but then on PS4? Or are there going to be guys like me who think Watch Dogs is interesting and going to pick it up at some point, but then just play it on their PS3?
Yeah, but look at it from Sony's perspective. This is why I didn't want to go too much into the manufacturers and just focus on games. Look at it from Sony's perspective. Whether they sell a copy of Watch Dogs on PS3 or PS4, at the end of the day, it's still bought on a PlayStation platform, which in Sony's book is a win.
Yeah, well, we still don't know, too, if we're going to be able to play PS3 games on our PS4, so...
Yeah, we've got all that excitement to come from E3.
I sure as hell hope, because if we do, I think we'll see a lot more PS4 sales.
Oh, hell yeah.
But, it makes me wonder, though, I mean, if a game isn't going to, make something that's for the PS4, they're going to make a PS3 version that would also play on the PS4. Is it going to make it less popular if everyone's buying a PS4? Because you know how it is when you first put out a console, games that are made specifically for that, kind of set a tone. Think about when the PS3 came out and Resistance, things like that.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting because that was a whole new, a whole new game that was introduced and became popular.
Yeah.
It's just timing. It was timing of, released with PS3 and stuff, so.
Yeah. I don't know, I'm kind of like, I'm not really too interested in terms of, the platforms and stuff. I just want to know what's coming. Because, in terms of games-wise, if we look at this time last year, I mean, we knew everything that was coming out before the end of 2012. I think that's fair to say. A lot of that stuff got pushed back, Bioshock Infinite into early this year, Metal Gear Rising and all those kinds of games. And so in some respects it's been quite good for us as gamers because although there has been weeks where we've been absolutely inundated with games, at the same time it's still been spread out over 3 or 4 months after Christmas. This time round, we talk about some of the bigger games like Battlefield 4, Watch Dogs, GTA 5, Beyond Two Souls, The Last of Us.
Modern Warfare 4, that GTA man can't wait for.
You mean Call of Duty Ghost?
Train Simulator 2013.
So, as I say, we know all about, the bigger titles, but there's still a lot of stuff that we don't know about, And I'm curious to see, some of the stuff coming out of E3 in terms of, certainly from Sony's first-party studios, what they've got lined up for us. Obviously, we know Media Molecule are doing Tearaway on the PS Vita, but the PS Vita development teams are traditionally quite small. I can't imagine the whole of Media Molecule are working on that. So what other things have they got in store? Obviously, we know Sucker Punch have got infamous Second Son coming on the PS4, but again, when you look at in terms of the fact they had no gameplay to show off, it makes you wonder how long they've been developing on the PS4 and what they've been doing in the 2 years since Infamous 2, because I can't imagine they spent 2 years since Infamous 2 trying to actually make Infamous Second Son. Otherwise, they would have shown us gameplay footage. There's lots of, certainly from first party studios, there's a lot of stuff we still don't know about. Obviously, Sony Santa Monica have a ton of stuff that we just don't even know about. God of War's, I think, probably officially on the back burner now for quite some time. We may obviously see Kratos return on PS4, but what are Sony Santa Monica going to do? We know they've got PS4 projects in the work, but they just haven't said anything to us. And do they have other PS3 stuff in the works? It's going to definitely be an interesting time for Sony at E3. There's always a few surprises. What do you think? When we saw the PS4 press conference, Square Enix hinted that they may have something for us at E3. Do you think we might actually finally see a release date for Final Fantasy 13 Versus, which is like 7 years in the making, or?
Probably be Final Fantasy, because it's safe.
Yeah, but we know Final Fantasy 14 is launching in July, right?
Okay.
We know there's no doubt there'll be a Final Fantasy 15 at some point, and they'll probably go multi-platform. We know that Square Enix do a ton of RPGs. The question is, will we finally see Final Fantasy 13 Versus? Because that game was announced when PS3 was first announced, and we've seen numerous trailers over the year, yet it's still MIA. And the same with Rockstar's Agent. We haven't even seen a trailer for that.
Yeah, but that's going to be after GTA 5.
Yeah, but it was going to be before Red Dead Redemption, it was going to be before Max Payne, and, it was announced as a PS3 exclusive. Is that even the case anymore? Do you think we might actually see those two games this year?
Well, LA Noire was another good example. It was announced, and after that it was dead, and then out of nowhere it
just came out.
The marketing started for it. So
yeah, but I think we kind of knew about LA Noire anyway.
Yeah, but it's the same for Agent. It was announced. It's quiet. That's Rockstar marketing for you. Yeah, we announce a game. Oh, we're not going to do anything about it until it's the 6 month till the release.
Yeah, but the thing is, Agent's a PS3 exclusive, or is it?
Maybe it's PS4 now. There's probably a good reason for it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they cancelled it.
I don't know. The reason I bring up some of these MIA games is because, with the new generation of console coming out, I think it's about time that, some of the developers and studios actually clarified where they are at with some of these things. Because it's dragging... Well, exactly. The Last Guardian, some of these things are dragging on far too long. And, some of these games that we've mentioned, like, believe it or not, a lot of people bought a PS3 on the promise that we'd get Final Fantasy 13. Now, some people are not too bothered that they haven't had it yet, but Sony still have to answer those people that bought the system specifically for that game. And with that in mind, it's kind of strange that Square Enix are promising more details, but yet not done anything. So
maybe it's Sleeping Dogs 2.
Oh, no, that was Square Enix published that and picked it up, but that was United Front Games, the guys behind Modern Nation Racers and all that. So I don't think we'll be seeing Sleeping Dogs 2, if I'm honest.
Square Enix. Remind me, what's the title from the Halo redirection? Destiny. Yeah. Looking forward to that one a little bit too. That's looks looking good.
Yeah, is there any others that you think that you really want to see? In fact, before you answer me this. Who do you think we'll see the biggest surprises from? And I'm not talking about manufacturers here. I'm talking about purely games and developers.
Um,
I think EA is going to surprise us with microtransactions.
There's always one, isn't there?
No, but I'm waiting for the day that EA releases a game and that if you want to start the game, you have to pay $1.
yeah. Yeah, every time you start it back up, you got to do a microtransaction. It pauses
No, but
after every hour. Please insert 50 cents into the front of your console. Go back to the coin-operated arcades of the 80s and stuff, right?
Unfortunately, the servers are down at this point.
Yes, if
Please-
you'd like to play.
Please, there are no refunds, so please try again.
Yeah.
Your money will not be
It's day 2. We're closing the servers on day 3. Just to let you know, we didn't say we would keep them open.
They already do that with mobile games. But anyway, on a serious, so what would you want to see from EA on a serious note?
Well, we need to, as gamers, we need to find some way to curb the microtransaction thing because, it seems like a good idea on its surface. Like if you don't want something, an extra or something like that, a map pack, whatever, that you just, you don't get it. But the underlying thing with it is that you can microtransaction the hell out of things that should be included in the game, and that's not really fair to gamers, is it? You buy a game and it's like, well, there's an outfit, and well, there's this, and where there's that. Okay, well, I don't need those. But then it turns into, well, you can have this gun that shoots twice as fast as any other gun in the game, and it gives you an advantage, and you can rank up, and you can buy rank, and you can.
So to bring us back on point, right, just for a second. So you're telling me if you were sat there watching the E3 EA press conference, the one thing you're going to be most excited about is EA announcing the disbandment of microtransactions if that happens. That's my point. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, but
don't get bogged down with all the side details because we've done a lot.
No, but if they get carried away with the microtransactions, I'm saying that I'm going to step away from their games. I'll go into the let's not buy them anymore realm of things.
Difference if EA come out with some amazing title that you really want to see.
I won't buy them. I'll do my small little part to get the word out. I'll do my small little part to, not support them, because there's not really any systems out there that protects us as gamers, is there?
Yes.
We have to use our wallets to say we like this or we don't like that.
No, we don't. There's numerous other things, and we'll leave
like
that
what?
We'll leave that for
No. This is evident everywhere. I've said this before with trophies and everything like that. We have to have some kind of fairness in gaming. We have to have some standards. If something doesn't meet your standards, you need to be able to stay strong and say, they're microtransacting the hell out of me with every game I buy from them. I'm done. No matter how good their game is, you should be able to say, no, thank you.
Yes, but again, I come back to this point, which is that if you're sat watching E3 and watching the EA press conference, for example, are you really going to be bothered about microtransactions when you watch trailers for their latest games? The things that are going to get you excited. No, you're not. You're just going to be concentrating on the games. All those small details will come later, so let's not focus on those. let's focus on what we want
EA
to...
is going to surprise us in the first place with a new game.
Let's focus on the exciting things and the positive things that E3 brings every year, including games. So what games do we really want to see from E3 this year, and who do we think is going to give us some surprises? And I'm not talking about negative surprises by issuing more microtransactions, but I'm talking about, who do you think we'll see some surprises from? Do you think we'll see some good stuff from Capcom? Do you think we'll see some great stuff with from Software? Because obviously they've got Demon's Souls 2 coming out this year, which is obviously going to be a huge one.
I
I don't
think
know.
it's time that we stop with the sequels. What I still really would like to see is I want to
GTA
have
5.
Yeah,
that
It's the
too,
5.
but
sequel.
no. What I really would like to see is an open world MMO that works just like APB, but that failed. When I saw the
Defiance.
trailer for APB, I wanted to have that. I wanted to buy that, but it's still in beta, and it's surprise, surprise, turned into a free-to-play game with all kinds of microtransactions. But
Well, it's
we've
funny
enough
you
about.
mention that because I think, we will actually see more of them. And, I looked at this the other day when I was playing Defiance and I was kind of like, damn, I'm going to be MMO'd out because, Defiance is a pretty competent open world shooter. And, it's not the greatest game on the planet, but it has its flaws. But that adds to the character of the game. It's actually pretty damn good MMO. Obviously, we've already got DC Universe. We've got Final Fantasy 14 coming out in July, and obviously Dust 514, which is free to play, microtransaction supported, releases on the 15th of May, 14th and 15th of May. In just under a week. So I was sat there thinking the other day, I wonder if Sony are going to announce any more free-to-play MMOs, because there obviously definitely is a market for it.
Yeah, there's a market in it because you say to your good customer like, "Hey, you want to play our game? Okay, good. Here's a really crappy gun. If you want to be better at it, give us $2 because
Exactly.
I mean that's my problem with microtransactions,
Yep.
and I'll
That's where it
just leave.
becomes total
Yeah,
bullshit
then
right
I'll just
there,
leave
you
it at
know.
that because
Right, but
Battlefield Heroes is a good example of that. Your you have the new player, but then you have the other players who spent too much money on it, and it becomes just really unbalanced, and that's a shame and really unfair.
Yeah.
Well, it is worth pointing, yeah, but you're looking at microtransactions as something you have to do. In the case of Dust 514, for example, microtransactions are an optional thing. Any weapon that you purchase within Dust 514 it's not like you can't unlock it by playing the game anyway. So, and, at some point, if you're offering a game for free, you have to make money somewhere. To be able to continue to support the game. So I'm just curious, as
Yeah,
you
sure,
know,
I
if
know,
if
but
we'll
keep it
we'll see more
balanced.
of those. Well, Dust 514 is a perfect example of keeping it balanced.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
think microtransactions gets a lot of bad press, and I think that's because it's associated with EA. And let's be honest. Well, no, think about it logically. If EA is the worst company in America, which by far it obviously isn't, we discussed this on a previous show. EA is not the worst company in the world. It's not,
Very
by all
good.
means, it's not the best, but
It's just the
because
most hated.
because microtransactions are sort of attached to that brand, it gets a lot of hate. And really, so in certain models, microtransactions are an absolute necessity. You can't ask for something for free and then and then not expect them to make money. They have to somewhere.
hmm
Hmm.
I'm not against the whole thing of microtransactions. The only problem that I have with it is that games get unbalanced. That's my only problem with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
EA can make a free-to-play game like Battlefield Heroes and put thousands and thousands of microtransactions with all kinds of skins for guns, new guns, whatever. But as long as the game keeps balanced, I don't have a problem with
Yeah,
it.
you
That's
can't
my
buy a
only
level,
issue.
you can't buy a gun advantage, you can't buy faster speed than everyone else. That's when it starts becoming, and that's where
And
we're
then you're
that's why
forcing
we all
people
have
who
that attitude
enjoy
towards
the
EA, and
game to
that's you
You're
know
forcing people that enjoy the game and want to be good at it to buy your microtransactions. That is the problem. Because new players get into a lobby with people who spend hundreds of dollars on overpowered equipment that they won't balance, and
and
that
as
you
far
lose
as
customers that way too.
as far as I know, it's already hit Call of Duty because I don't know if it's because of the map pack I recently bought, but there's a new gun in there
Yeah,
that
there's customization
Peace
tools and stuff. Yeah.
Peacekeeper. I don't think everyone gets the Peacekeeper, do they?
I wouldn't know. You'd have to ask. You'd have to ask GTA when he plays more Black Ops 2 than I do.
Well, it's one of those things that we're just looking at E3 as one of those things that when EA starts talking, that's always going to be in the back of our mind, and that's what we're trying to say, Dante, is that we're probably not giving those games a fair shake of looking at it like, oh, this looks awesome, because in the back of our head we're like, well, where's the catch? Where's the microtransactions that could come out of this that are going to ruin the game and the experience and the value?
Too cynical. Anyway.
Well, I'm being honest. I'm being straightforward. That I don't look forward to. There's not anything EA has that I'm looking.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what Criterion have to offer. In terms of whether or not we'll see a new Burnout or Need for Speed. We've got one rumoured to be coming.
Yeah.
I'm certainly, with the success of Need for Speed Most Wanted being such a fantastic game, I'm definitely curious to see, how a new Need for Speed game will, keep continuing to innovate, and how that's going to affect obviously the next generation platforms as well. Obviously the sports stuff I'm interested in. I'm curious to see, we saw last year that obviously FIFA 13 implemented PlayStation Move for the first time. I'm curious to see how the PS4 camera is going to have some impact with it, with FIFA series certainly. But I think we're going to see a lot of surprises from people like Capcom. I think most of the surprises is given are going to be next generation based. We were kind of wowed away by some of the technical demos that we saw at the PS4 press conference, and I think more of those will be great over the course of the E3 to look forward to. I definitely think there's some big games going to be making some fantastic appearances. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to E3, and I'm hoping people listening in haven't taken a pessimistic view, and are genuinely going to be excited for E3. Forget all the microtransactions and stuff, and just remember all those kinds of details come later. For now, just concentrate on what's in front of you, and obviously I think Sony are going to do a wonderful job with that. I think the last two E3s have been really mediocre. We've had the odd bit of excitement, but to be honest with you, a lot of stuff's leaked out like a month before the show's even started. Obviously with PS4 actually being revealed, the actual design of the console and stuff E3 and the price and stuff, I think Sony would be a lot more tight-lipped, which is great because it means that I think we're in for quite a lot of surprises from Sony's first-party studios. I mean, we know, as I said before, there are studios that are still working on stuff for PS3, such as Naughty Dog's B Team. Guerrilla Games have still got new IPs in that isn't Killzone. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So are you excited for E3 then?
I am excited for E3. I'm hoping to see like some unique stuff, because Assassin's Creed and all the other stuff, it's nice and all, but something like a Watch Dogs is like a breath of fresh air. I think the gaming world needs some breaths of fresh air and all that good stuff. Yeah. I really think so, and it needs GTA 5, but that's my personal opinion.
I still maintain that Watch Dogs is my most anticipated game of this year. So.
Yeah,
Last
but
of
that's
Us.
you.
Last of Us.
Yeah, well, you don't have too much to it.
GTA Man, what's your most anticipated game of this year?
Oh, me?
You looking forward to the
Saints Row
unpixel?
4, hell yeah! Wait, be right back, I gotta wash my mouth with soap.
Farm Simulator 2? No?
Hell yeah.
No,
but seriously, I think I am going to buy Saints Row 4 just to check out how bad it is, and then
Give me a little boost for how good you're gonna like.
No, but seriously, I think. Okay, here's one last question, and the Skype chat is getting bombarded with "Shut up." Just let's wrap this up. One last question: Call of Duty first. The Call of Duty Ghosts versus GTA 5. Who will sell the most? Go.
GTA 5.
Call of Duty Ghosts.
GTA 5.
There, 2-1.
We'll see who's right about that one. We'll check the stats. We better remember to come back around to this.
Yeah, in a
I
year's
think it
time,
will be
'cause
interesting.
You've got to bear in mind that day one sales don't necessarily count. So in terms of the whole picture, you'd have to look at it over a year. That's usually what they
Okay,
do.
after
So
Christmas.
yeah, I still think Call of Duty will.
No.
Well, Call of Duty is a
Especially,
dying franchise.
especially if it goes on next gen platforms. I think if Call of Duty Ghosts goes on PS4 as a launch title and the next Xbox, I think that's actually going to drive sales at both platforms. So yeah, I genuinely think that Call of Duty Ghosts could snatch it in terms of the top charts in the UK certainly. Between now and Christmas, I'm not saying that GTA 5 won't do great and sell billions or whatever, but I still think Call of Duty Ghosts, against my better judgment, will probably nick it.
All right, fair enough. All right, lively discussion today. GTA man, thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing your opinion and your knowledge about GTA 5.
You're very welcome, Mister.
All
Good
right.
luck.
See you probably back in a couple of months' time when we have some more info, maybe.
Yep. And then I'll have to, if we can pull you in for co-op, you'll have to be in my crew for every mission.
Dude, stop it. I'm gonna get so much. Everyone is saying that. Last night, it was 3 a.m. and
I was the first to
helping
ask.
someone with like...
Yeah, we were the first to ask.
I was the first to ask on a live podcast.
Yeah.
I go to the front of the line.
I don't care. I'm going to be online. There will probably be 3 slots left, and the first one to join wins. I really don't give a shit.
But we'll have to work out some sort of lottery ticket system.
Yep. You can have
the one who pays the
microtransactions.
most,
Microtransactions.
Microtransactions to get in the lobby with me.
5 minutes with them.
Yeah.
Alrighty, folks. Thank you for joining us on Trophies on PSN's The PodStation. And we'll catch you next week. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.
Goodbye.